Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We're going to update you on the latest news around the NBA, including a suspension, some injuries, all kinds of stuff happening around the league. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office Show on YouTube, as well as over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, I guess let's just jump right into it. I mean, the big news, Joel Embiid, the punishment handed down, suspended for 3 games as a result of his altercation with a reporter in the locker room. He reportedly pushed him. Were you surprised? I mean, I guess not surprised that a suspension came down, but were you surprised at the length of time?
I was surprised it felt a little light given the past history of what the NBA has done with recent suspensions. I thought they might go somewhere between 5 and 10 games. But I think the league tried to take into account what was written by the columnists, that like Embiid had a right to be angry. Now, they're clearly sending a message of you can't do this, though. You can't put hands on somebody, right? Because you're mad at them. But I think they did take into account like what was written was absolutely terrible. Embiid had a right to be angry about it. So you can be angry about it, but you can't put hands on somebody. So we'll kind of split the difference, call it 3 games. And that felt fairly, reasonable to me as far as the punishment goes on that end. I will say this too. A lot of people asked in our comments, I had people hitting me up on social media. Well, why isn't the league doing anything to the writer? What's his punishment going to be? The only thing the NBA can do is say no more credentials to NBA events. That's it. He doesn't work for them. He's not an employee of the NBA. They can't fire him. He doesn't work, under the NBA or anybody NBA even related in the NBA world that way. So they're pretty limited in what they can do from that end. We don't know if that'll be something they do or not. Maybe they may let the 76ers just handle the credential issue themselves, but they're very, very limited in what they could actually do to punish the writer. Embiid, different story, works as a in effect an employee of the NBA.
Well, and I gotta say, like, I think this is an extreme situation where the writer wrote something that was, potentially offensive regarding Embiid's family, invoking the name of his brother who passed away and all of that. That there was some certain insensitivity to his comments, no question. And Embiid has a right to be upset about those things. I also think it's a little bit of a slippery slope, though, if we start getting into a point where, well, the team doesn't like what the writer wrote, so they're going to revoke his credentials. You're talking about access being denied based on whether or not a team is happy with something that the media wrote. That's access journalism. Like that's not a great thing to go down. Like, what if once you start down that path, how long before you get to a point where a member of the media, and I'm sure this is coming across biased because we are technically media, right? But how long before you get to a point where a member of the media says something about a team, says, I didn't like the rotation the coach used on this night. I didn't think this player put in full effort in this game. Oh, you wrote something negative about our team, credential revoked, see you later. Obviously it's a big leap to get from what was written to that point, but it's just a slippery slope once you start doing that kind of stuff, revoking access because you're unhappy with something that was written about the team.
Yeah, completely agree. I think in this case, the insensitivity, you could get there because he tied something unrelated to on the court to it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to be very careful. We don't want to turn into that. And I know people will be like, well, why do people need a credential? They don't. Well, if you want stories and you want the stories that are from on the ground with quotes, with people building relationships with players to get more out of them, out of coaches and front office folks, you have to be able to have media in the building. So we don't need to go so far the other way of, well, we can just we don't even need media there. Just let me watch it on TV. And I know there are people who believe that, and that's fine, I guess. But it's I think they handled this very well. Now, if we flip it to a semi-silver lining, Embiid's going to start serving this suspension today as we record this on Wednesday. So he will be
Out for the the 76ers next 3 games. I
Yeah,
think tonight is the Clippers.
correct.
So the good news is that means he's ready to play because it was very much cleared or made clear in the suspension language. It was the first game he was going to be available for that had to start the suspension. So gets 3 games, that 3 more games that he'll be able to, train and rest up and heal up. And then his debut will presumably come next week in an NBA Cup game against the New York Knicks.
Do you buy it that he's actually ready to play? Or do you think the Sixers went, well, he's going to be out another week anyway, but if we say he's ready to play now, then the suspension starts immediately. So why not just say he's ready to play right now? And then we can get the suspension out of the way and then he returns. Otherwise, it could cost you more games if you say that we're not sure if he's going to play. So do you buy that he would really take the court tonight against the Clippers?
Yeah, I think it was getting close. I mean, we had all those reports over the last week that he's been doing more 5-on-5 than it was. He's now playing full 5-on-5 scrimmages. So I do buy it only because they just got hit with $100,000 fine for messing around with the injury report. Sure. I don't think they'd go right back to that well. So maybe there was a little bit of finagling in there. Maybe he needed one more day or something. But yeah, if not, I think it was getting really, really close.
All right, let's jump over to the Denver Nuggets, who have not been off to the best start of their season here. They've got a couple of very close wins over the Toronto Raptors, certainly not inspiring wins by any means. And now they're going to be missing Aaron Gordon, who, if you look at the on-off numbers, has been their second most important player behind, of course, Nikola Jokic. Aaron Gordon is going to miss some time with a calf injury. Now he's going to be out for at least a few weeks. This is a tough loss because after Aaron Gordon, you're talking about Peyton Watson is going to be getting the minutes. And then I guess technically Michael Porter Jr. shifts down to the 4. This puts a lot more burden to rebound the basketball, to be the interior presence on Nikola Jokic. A very tough loss for a Nuggets team that's already been dealing with Jamal Murray being in the concussion protocol. We'll see where ultimately that lands, if he's able to return sooner rather than later, what that's going to look like. But another tough blow for a Nuggets team that seems to be getting thinner and thinner every offseason.
Yeah, and just this is where it stands out that outside of Christian Brown, their young guys just haven't hit the way that they really hoped they would. Now, I'm a little higher on Julian Strawther than I think a lot of other people are.
Sure.
I think this is going to force Michael Malone to have to play those guys. Like he's not going to have other options to go to. There's not a play X player more or anything like that. So I think those guys in there, like that's going to be pretty big with that. So I think that'll be interesting to see where that goes. But they're 4-3, and their 4 wins this year are over the Toronto Raptors, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Utah Jazz. And in both Raptors games and the Nets game, they had to stage wild comebacks to win those 3 games there. And then the Jazz game, they blew them up, but the Jazz may be the worst team in the league. We'll see. And then their losses are to teams that are playoff teams or in the playoff mix. Oklahoma City opening night, they lost to the Clippers, and then they lost to the Timberwolves. But Trevor, here's what's even more worrisome. Here's their next 7 or 8 games. Versus Heat, versus Thunder tonight. So let's start there. Versus the Heat, versus the Mavericks. At the Pelicans. All right, they're messy. They're going through a bunch. Then they play the baseball series at Memphis for 2 straight. Then versus Dallas again, at the Lakers, versus the Knicks. We get all the way till Thanksgiving week when they play at the Jazz before there's another one where you're like, all right, that one looks very, very winnable.
Yeah.
That is brutal. This might be by the time we get there, they're 500, a game or 2 better than 500. I'd say that's a massive success given everything they're going to go through here in the next little bit.
Oh yeah, Keith, I was looking at their schedule earlier, and they've had they've played some tough teams. They played, Minnesota and stuff, but they've had a relatively light schedule so far. But yeah, this next stretch now without Aaron Gordon, who knows what Jamal Murray's status is going to be in concussion protocol. This is rough. I mean, you're playing teams on any given. I know New Orleans hasn't been off to a super hot start, but these are quality opponents that you're going to be facing. And I look at it. I think if you can play 500 ball until Aaron Gordon gets back, you're thrilled if you're Denver, given the teams that they're facing right now. I think you're absolutely right about that. It's going to be tough sledding here, and this could wind up being an absolutely critical stretch. Again, there's a lot of basketball left to play. We're really just starting the NBA season, but this stretch could be one that we're looking back on once we're tabulating the final results here for the playoff seeding in April. We could very well be looking back on this stretch and saying, man, how is it that Denver is suddenly the 5 seed or the 6 seed or something in the Western Conference? Well, remember that stretch in November when they went, when they won 2 games or something in the few weeks that Aaron Gordon was out. That could prove to be a really big hurdle for them to overcome, particularly in the Western Conference.
Yeah, without a doubt. And like, let's say they drop both of those games to Memphis, and then we get to April and Memphis is the 4 seed and Denver's the 5th seed. That could be the difference, right? That could be it. So I am starting to feel a lot less bullish about the Nuggets being a top 4 team, just because of the injuries when they're hitting, because this is such a tough stretch in the schedule. And just, again, their 4 wins, other than the Utah game where they absolutely blew the doors off them. Neither of the Toronto games nor the Nets game were impressive wins. It's impressive you came back, but you shouldn't have to be coming back. If you're the Nuggets and fancy yourselves as a title contender against the Raptors and the Nets, like that shouldn't have even been a thing. So it's going to be tough sledding for them, especially, that getting the Thunder again. Now, on the flip side, we got 2 of them out of the way. So we're, at least those are done, but boy, that's that's tough. And I'm with you, Peyton Watson. I think you probably, now you play Michael Porter Jr. more at the 4. Maybe that unlocks him a little bit more offensively. Maybe he draws slightly easier matchups against bigger guys that he can beat off the bounce and stuff. But, that's me very much searching for a silver lining out of this. And it's, because it's going to be tough.
It really is. It really is. We're going to find out what Denver is made of here. All right, last thing that we've got, Jeremy Sochan with a broken thumb. Not good news for the San Antonio Spurs. I know Sochan had really picked it up this season. He'd been playing pretty well. So this is a tough blow. Is there? I have not seen. All I saw was that he had a broken thumb. Is there a prediction as far as how long this may be affecting him?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything on that either. Let me see now if there's anything.
He has to have surgery on it, so that's gonna keep him out for a bit.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a while. It's certainly gonna be a while. Jeremy Sochan was, like you said, in the midst of a career year. In year 3, 15.4 points per game, shooting 51% from the field. He is taking only a couple 3-pointers per game, not shooting very well, but basically has kind of dropped those out of his shot profile. That's those outside shots have shifted a lot more to Victor Wembanyama, who's also not making them right now. I think he's at like 22%.
Right.
From 3, but Harrison Barnes, Julian Champagnie, and of course Chris Paul. Those guys are all taking more. So Sochan was really back to, they're not messing around with him at point guard anymore. So it's back to,
thank goodness.
Hey, let's be the jack of all trades player that we all really liked a lot. His rookie year versus a guy who spent a third of last season shoehorned into this goofy point guard experiment. And I'm all for trying stuff when you're a rebuilding team, but that was clear about a game and a half in. This isn't going to be a thing. Like, why it continued, that was ridiculous. But so it's a bummer, man. And it's San Antonio. They're 3 and 4. They're a game out of like 5th and 4th, whatever it is, because it's so early. But I don't know. I'm another team. I'm not kind of seeing it with them, right? Like, I think they're not going to be a playoff team this year.
So, but I think that's okay. I think it's okay that they're not. I think the goal for San Antonio, in my opinion, for this season, it was to establish themselves as not the Blazers, not the Jazz, not the bottom tier, but a team that's on the rise and a team that not this season, but next season is going to make that playoff leap. They want to be that team that this coming summer catches some interest from free agents. Maybe they find a buying move on the trade market, something like that, where they add another piece, and then next year they try to make that leap. But they need to establish themselves as being that team that's ready to make that next step, because that's going to attract the attention of free agents, of potential trade targets that are going to go, you know what? Yeah, I can be part of that next step in San Antonio. Right now, they're not at that stage. Right now, they need to separate from the Blaze. If you're a veteran free agent, if you're a veteran player and you see the Blazers, unless it's just you want the paycheck, you're not going there assuming, hey, I'm going to win basketball games anytime soon. Same thing with the Jazz right now, who maybe you could argue are a little bit ahead in the rebuild, despite what the record is. I like some of the pieces they've got. It's debatable. But bottom line, the Spurs wanted to establish themselves as being farther along since they've got Wemby. And I think that's still the goal, but this does hurt a bit just in terms of meeting that goal of making themselves the team that is ready to make the next step next season.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to do if you're the Spurs is a little Rockets-ish, right? Like we're in the running for a while, probably fall out a little earlier than the Rockets did because they're not as good as last year's Rockets team was. But yeah, it's, and then it's, all right, which one of these guys are ready when we're next season, maybe ready to take that step and really push for a postseason spot. Then you have a little bit better idea, a little bit more data on guys, a little bit more feel for who fits around Wembanyama. But yeah, I'm with you. It's a year early. Like I thought the number of people who were pumping, be careful with San Antonio, they might be a playoff team, always felt a little odd. That's why whenever we were talking about this stuff, I was like, well, it's the Jazz and the Blazers, and depending on how you feel about the Spurs. Yeah. That was what I said repeatedly because I thought I made it pretty clear. I wasn't there on the Spurs. Like I was like, yeah, that's still probably a year away. But play more competitively, play lineups that make a lot more sense and go. But it just, again, this is why you don't want injuries on rebuilding teams. You can lose games with or without Jeremy Sochan. Might as well lose him with him and get a sense of how he fits with
Absolutely.
guys. And this stinks because now this happens and Devin Vassell's coming back. Like he should be making his debut, feels like almost any time now. It sounded, remember they said it was right around the beginning of the month. So that should be coming here, I would say, within the next week-ish, I would imagine. So yeah, it's just a tough blow. I wish we had better news today, but obviously no games yesterday. We had the Embiid and Gordon stuff dropped within, as per usual, like 5-10 minutes after we stopped recording.
Of course, that's the way it goes.
That's how it goes. And then the Sochan stuff came out a little later, but just we cover what's out there. We tell you great news and great fun stories if we had them. We just don't have them.
We burned through our scheduled nonsense too. I should have saved some nonsense for today, but that's okay. I know we both have a bunch of other things to get to. So a little bit shorter show today, but again, we do appreciate everybody for joining us. Make sure that you do subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back tomorrow with all the. Oh, I'm sorry, we won't be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, Keith is traveling. We'll be back Friday with all the latest going on around the NBA.
From a hotel in parts unknown of Phoenix. I will bring my mic, but you're going to have to, I'm not bringing my camera mostly because I'm too lazy to unhook it and move it. So you're going to be stuck with me on the laptop camera, but hopefully the hotel Wi-Fi is strong enough that we can have a little bit of fun with Front Office Friday. Might be a little earlier than usual. We'll have to see because I'm working with some timing, around the event. Arizona State University Law School's mock trade deadline competition, second year. I'm really excited to get out there and have some fun with that.
All right, that should be a good time. So everybody be on the lookout for that on Friday. Till then, everybody, see ya and stay safe.